Hello, Dr. Reed Etter here again. I am here to talk to you today about addiction. I know that's kind of a tough topic, but I want to talk about the physiology of addiction and what happens. So we had talked before about the HPA axis, autonomic nervous system, all of those things. When the HPA axis is dysregulated, and again, that's the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. When that's dysregulated, all number of issues start to pop up in the system, okay? So, namely blood sugar problems, okay? So, we know that emotional mood swings, issues like that, depression, all of that have to do with blood sugar stability. And when the blood sugar is stable, things go right because that's the sugar getting into the cells properly and it gives you a constant flow of energy. So if you feel energetic and then not energetic and then energetic and you're up and down, your blood sugar is just dysregulated. So you're prey to all these different feelings, you know. I used to feel like I'm going to get up, I'm going to do all these things today. I'd do one of them and the other four things I wouldn't get to, and I'd get tired and just do something else, and you kind of give up, right? So staying on top of our goals and staying motivated has to do a lot with our blood sugar, but that starts with the HPA axis. Now I'm going to talk to you today about ways that can get dysregulated. Again, this is a pretty poor version of the brain here, but we have the hypothalamus, and we have the pituitary here, and we have these hormones that get secreted that go to our adrenal glands sitting on top of the kidneys. Okay, that's the HPA. Now, especially with trauma, almost everybody on the planet now has trauma, okay? And one thing about that is it can be passed genetically. So people think, well, I never had any trauma in my life or major trauma. Well, almost every single person has been affected by World War I and World War II because they were world wars, okay? And there's something called species consciousness where if a critical threshold of the same species experiences similar feelings or an event, then it can affect the whole, okay? So almost everybody's walking around with that level of subconscious trauma from world wars. That's one thing. Antibiotics, especially from a young age, are very traumatic to the body because they start to kill off intestinal flora that is also good for you, that helps you develop. We've evolved for a long time with bacteria, and you start to just throw some antibiotics into the mix and you start killing off some of these friends that evolved with you for a long time. And when that goes missing, everything goes wrong. The microbiome or microbiota, those beneficial flora that are in your gut, you start to lose those, it's hard to get them back. They help metabolize B vitamins for energy, they help with producing neurotransmitters, they do all sorts of things to keep your blood healthy, to fend off against disease, to have an immune system. The main reason most people don't have an immune system now, especially in the COVID scare, is because of a lack of flora. Overuse of antibiotics, okay? It's been going on a long time. So those are traumas, okay? So we talk about the war stuff, but something a little bit more pertinent, right? Antibiotic use, high fructose corn syrup, fake, like processed foods, okay? Even things like, I would say things like pornography, okay? These all feed into addictive behaviors because it's not part of an actual connection with another person, okay? I'm gonna put that. I know it's a hard thing to talk about, but things like this are actually slightly traumatizing to the person. It starts to affect the brain. All of these things start to affect the brain and the body connection. So there starts to become a dissociation. This is where people start enacting bad behaviors, not acting in ways that are themselves, that kind of thing. It's all a dysregulation within this system. It's the connection between the brain and the body that starts to become disconnected over time with traumas. And when you have these little traumas, what happens is it creates a dead part of you. Okay, when you have a trauma, it's almost like you lose part of yourself. A lot of trauma victims talk about that because they can't go to that place, so they put it over here. Creates brain compartments, like multiple personality disorder, that kind of thing. When you create compartments like that, you create little shadows, and if they're not handled, they start to wreak havoc like an infection that goes unhandled for years or decades. Then it could kill you. Right? These are like you hear about the serial killers or really bad things that happen. They have very deep shadow selves that have not been recognized. And there's not a lot of talk about it, and these urges get crazy and they do crazy things. Okay? That's a big part of trauma. It's that victim abuser thing, okay? That's why a lot of abusive relationships that person abusing is very traumatized, or they would never do that to something else, okay? As within, so without. So when you have parts of you that are unrealized or unhealed for long enough, you have addictions take place, okay? Substance abuse, alcohol, drugs, porn, all those things start to fill voids that you're missing in your emotional body, because it makes you feel that rush of dopamine and happiness that you should just normally have. I've seen a lot of addiction, and I've seen how horrible it is to people. So smoking is another thing. One thing I do want to say, though, is something that you can do to help regulate this HPA axis is what I was talking about before. Spend 10 minutes a day relaxing your whole body, normalizing your breathing. The more that you do that, see, if you go to the gym, you don't work out once. You can, but you're not going to get results. Weeks to months to years, right? So it's the same thing with the mental body, okay? Deprogramming from stressors. You have to do it every day, because every day is a new lifetime to the body. The more that you learn to relax yourself, the less you become reactive to stressors and amp up your nervous system all the time, because then you can't heal, especially addictions. Addictions are adrenaline. You're addicted to adrenaline, the need for adrenaline to feel something, okay? So the relaxation exercises are really going to help with that. Now, on top of that, avoiding high fructose corn syrup, avoiding as much as you can antibiotics, because that wreaks havoc on the body and it is traumatic. That's how I got sick. Processed foods, pornography, those things just lead to bad places. Ted Bundy said before he was executed in Florida State Prison, the day before the interview asked him why he thinks he did what he did. And again, everyone has free will and that's no excuse. But he had said, every man in here is addicted to porn just like me. And all I can say is there's some kind of relationship with that to what I did to other people, okay? These are dangerous things when we have addictions that go unrecognized, okay? Heal the mind, do your relaxation. And that's it for today. We'll continue talking about these kinds of things in the coming videos. Have a wonderful week, okay?